This is Pine Hill Cemetery down in Somerset, Kentucky. And Lloyd, you said Alice Sewell was who?
Uncle Milt's wife.
Uncle Milt's wife. And this is Uncle Milt Sewell, which would have been my granddad, Chester Sewell's uncle. And here is Granddad Sewell's
Sister. Only sister he had.
my granddad's sister, Grandpa Ben's. And this next over here is my granddad's wife, Grandma Elizabeth. This was the only grandparent my granddad Chester Sewell knew in his life. Just taking a panoramic view shot here. This church was established in 1888. It's been remodeled. Doing a 360 here. This is Lloyd, my granddad's sole remaining male cousin.
Here's the other Sewell right here. This fella is Uncle Milt's boy, right here.
And my granddad's father name was Frank, and this William was named after great-granddad Sewell.
He was Uncle Milt's boy. Yes, he was.
And this William W. Sewell was his son.
He was Uncle Frank's, or Little Frank's William Willard, that was.
That's where Daddy and Mom, Lloyd, Madeline, Sewell, that's their grave marker. That's where they'll be buried. If and when they die before the Lord gets here. And this is Lloyd's mother, Dory Vault Sewell.
Which was Granddad's aunt.
Yeah. And this is her husband, Silas Logan.
Which was his uncle.
Yeah. And this is little Lucy. She only lived a year.
And that was Lloyd's sister.
Lloyd's sister, yeah. And this is Lloyd's little brother. Didn't live long. And this is little baby Sewell. We don't know what its name was or what sex it was even.
Yes.
And then this is little Elmer. And Daddy says that he looks just like my grandson. And he had a problem with his back, and he couldn't walk, and he couldn't run and play.
Mm-hmm.
And that disturbs Daddy, but yeah, this is little Elmer.
And Lucy Vault over there.
That's my daddy's grandmother. That's Dory Vault Sewell's mother and daddy, Sylvester and Lucy.
So that was Lloyd's grandparents on his mother's side.
Yeah.
Lloyd.
You remember he went over the bluff with a bulldozer, and they was doing this new road to go to Burnside.
Road roller.
A road roller, and he went over the bluff.
This was Uncle Milt's son,
Yeah.
which was my granddad's Uncle Milt. Great-granddad Frank's brother.
Was Dawson's brother. Abraham and Dawson Jr. first got here, and they're on the 1810 census, but they appear in the 1806 tax records with Abraham. Dawson Sr. also appears. I'm thinking that Abe would probably be Dawson's brother, or yeah, be Dawson's brother Abraham. So that would be Benjamin's great uncle.
In that book that I gave you, it had the Abraham Sewell that is buried here. It has his wife and his children's name, and it's listed as the Renfro Cemetery.
He is. That little Abe that lived here was a
When they
small fella, little short
I said,
fella.
well, Ruth, tell me where it is. And she said it's by the tree outside the cemetery. And I said, well, there's just one
I was
there.
thinking that, in fact, that may be the one I have in.
Anyway, he
What
was
if it was
Civil
Nancy
War.
Jane that we can't ever find?
He's buried over
Was
there.
there any dates on that? You remember? Was there?
His rock turned over laying
Be a
there.
stroke of luck for sure.
But there's just two Sewells buried there, I think.
Well, there were more.
Terry talked to him. I don't know what to tell him.
I don't remember. Irma remembers more about that escapade.
70 years ago, I used to ride a horse and come up at Dabney, up where, just above where I live now. Get Roscoe Gass and all folks come out here. Get with Paul and Nevin McKinney, Tasso Buchanan, Homer Norton. Ride horses all over this.
Just to be riding, or were you
Yeah,
just
on Sunday
riding?
while we just spend the day. Yeah. Yeah, boys is
Everett
all about
McKinney?
my age. And so
Let 'em, I'll be walking on her.
Okay,
Oh,
we'll
there.
catch you.
We could probably round you one.
It all
All
was
this
laying
is
all
in the
together.
cemetery.
Yeah, because I think that people.
I believe when y'all was up there and I was a kid, y'all found all the pieces and laid them there together, got it.
Well, actually, her rock wasn't in pieces. Her rock was still together.
I think his rock's all together.
Really? We're talking.
I'd say that foot rock has been in this.
We walked. She was just a little kid, and we walked to my grandfather's over here, and
That's the bottom piece off of this big rock.
but it was all together then because we put a piece of paper down on top of it and used a pencil, you know, to rub over it. So
And line it, yeah.
yeah. And we of course this place was it was together then because
But that was 30 years ago.
Have you been down to that cemetery down on the creek? It's on that Whitaker guy on Marie. Lloyd used to shop and he plugged it back up.
Don't
She
tell
got
me
in.
that. Take it. Take it to the
Spring down there at the bottom of the hills where they used to get their water in the old days. I'm taking a panoramic view here of great-great-grandfather Benjamin Sewell and his wife Elizabeth, where they homesteaded here along this hillside, about 10 miles east of Somerset, Kentucky. We believe that that oak tree down there was a possible home site. And they used the creek down here to get water and for their washing. This is Rock Lick Cemetery where Granddad's granddad's buried, great-great-granddad Benjamin Sewell. Read what's on his tombstone. Benjamin Sewell, born June the 6th, 1834, died January 31st, 1893. Behold a pilgrim as he lies with glory in his view. To heaven he lifts his longing eyes and bids the world adieu. And his military stone over here, Benjamin Sewell, Company B, 12th Kentucky Infantry. Panoramic view. Lloyd says that on the back side of this cemetery where the trees are is where they buried all the black slaves, and they're in unmarked graves. They weren't allowed here in the white cemetery. This is August 25th, 1997. We're at Lloyd and Granny's homestead here, and we're doing an interview Sunday morning for future generations. Jim Sewell from California is also here. He's the third cousin, and this is Dave Sewell. So go right ahead. Well, I'd like to ask a question. Do you have any remembrance of any of the old timers remembering any family history beyond and older than Grandpa Ben?
No.
Grandpa Ben is as far back as you go to remember
That's
anything.
as far as I've ever heard any talk about. Now, your grandpa Frank,
Great Grandpa.
yeah, your great grandpa Frank, did you ever hear him talk about where his wife come from?
He came, she came from,
Colorado?
no, Kansas. I think she was born in Cherryvale, Kansas.
Okay.
Her parents went over in covered wagon
Well, now.
from Illinois because they were born in Illinois. Her parents were.
Were they? Well, I didn't know that. There's been a kind of a loose link in where they all come from.
Mm-hmm. I don't know whether you've already said it, and I just want to say it for the benefit of the tape, where Grandpa Ben and Grandma Elizabeth homesteaded.
Was it the oak tree where the homestead was, you decided, or was it on back around the lane?
Right. It was back around the lane.
It's a just a little corner there.
Right, that's probably that clump of trees where I thought he said there the first
I
time.
think so too.
Okay, because there's a pond down over the hill.
Yeah, okay, now the pond's just below where the
House was?
yeah, the water system was that hole.
Okay.
That's how, I think that's
That
how
was a
come
spring at one time?
Yeah, I think that's how come we built a house up there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever remember going in that cabin when
No,
Grandma
uh,
used?
I've been in it, but I don't remember anything about it. I was too little.
Mm-hmm.
But now the other house, where my dad and mother lived, there was two houses on that place. And one of them set up on top of the flat there, you know, and then close to that water hole there. And the other one set just through that, just past where that gate goes in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I told her, now either Grandma Sewell's mother or some of them had a stroke right where that fence is that goes along the edge of the wood,
Mm-hmm.
right there going up that way.
Right.
You could see there's part of an old roadway.
Right.
Now that's the way that went. Now she had a stroke right there.
Grandma Elizabeth?
No, it's her mother. I asked Granny, she couldn't think either. But
What is her name?
no, it wasn't her. It's the other. It's her mother. Anyway, there's where she had the stroke, but I think they took her on home, and there used to be a road went across that Darky Knob. There was a road went across there, and they took her home. She died.
Well,
But she had the stroke there.
you told me a couple of years ago when I was down here, and Granny told me that was it Grandma Elizabeth's mother or grandmother, there was a shady past. I mean, there was speculation that she was into witchcraft and stuff. Do you remember telling me that story?
Granny Hanner, Daddy.
Well, yeah, it was Granny Hanner.
I mean, we had some black sheep in the family.
But yeah, it was Granny Hanner they told.
Now that was Grandma Elizabeth's grandmother?
Yeah. Granny Hanner Earp.
Yeah, she was on the Earp side.
If we'd have had time, we could have went over there, but none of us thought about it, I guess. Yes, ma'am.
Because I remember Granny telling me.
We could have went over there to that old Earp place now where they was originally raised. How long would it take us to get over there, Betty?
Oh, I don't know. These guys, that's with these guys. You'd have to go with them. It wouldn't take you 30 minutes.
Well, maybe we'll see when we get done with our interview. We'll
Yeah.
see what the time is and how you're feeling and everything.
Mom, you tell them about how Granny Hanner used to make the tables walk. Can you?
Well, she just lay her hand on them.
Now, what did she put her hand on?
Table, make it
A little
walk.
table.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I never seen that myself.
What'd she do? How did she saddle the horses, Mom?
She put her hand behind her and lock her hand. Lock her fingers behind her. And
Who was it fixing to shoot somebody when she...
locked her hand behind her and the gun wouldn't stop her.
Who was that going to do that shooting? You remember?
Grandpa's brother.
So they were if Granny Elizabeth's grandmother Earp, you're getting back to where the Earp family with Wyatt Earp and them probably are just
Yeah.
brothers and sisters in that area then.
Yeah, that's the way that's the same herbs. Same herbs.
And Earp lived out there close to David, wasn't he? Did you tell me last night that Earp and he farmed his land?
No, not any that I'm aware of.
Where's the Fred Sewell tract of land at from where you live?
Well, it was about 7 or 8 miles north of me where I lived there on Granddad's place.
Well, okay. Now listen, David, you hunt the record up. I'm sure you can find it. That right in there is where them Earps owned land.
In Illinois?
Yeah. Where the you maybe don't remember it, but Chester showed me where they lived at. It's where Fred and them used to live, and I think Fred owned that land. If I'm not mistaken, Chester told
It
me.
was just north of Ridge Farm and just north of the railroad tracks down a gravel road.
Well, as I remember, there's about the only trees that I seen in there is any size was right there on that little knoll.
But
where the road come right along the side of the house like that, like this.
But the Earps from Somerset area
Yeah,
moved up in the same area that we did.
yeah, and they lived right in that section right
Well, there isn't any there now
there.
in modern times that I'm aware
Well,
of.
there's, I don't know whether they had any families or not. I don't know anything about that.
Did you ever hear any stories about Granddad Ben's time in the Civil War?
No, I never,
Any of the escapades or anything like that?
never did. I never did hear evidently he wasn't in none of the battles here close around here.
Well, he was in the infantry.
But I don't, I've inquired 2 or 3 different times, but I maybe never did find the right source. Now, he was further west from the Battle of Nancy over here, evidently. I never did hear no talk that he was ever in that, but. See, now they talk about that being the Battle of Mill Springs. But Mill Springs, if you notice from over there, is is southwest of that, across over there. It's not too far, though, is it? Across there to Mill Springs.
Not the way the crow flies, but it is we're going the road.
Well, yeah, but the way the old road used to go.
Yeah.
So you've got more stories about Grandma Elizabeth that you can remember than you can Grandpa Ben.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard a lot of wild stories about that, but
Well, would you want to share any?
I don't remember them that well. I've heard him tell that about her making that the table walk
Now that was
as a little.
Granny Hannah.
that was Granny Elizabeth's grandmother there.
Granny Hannah, yeah.
But on Grandma Elizabeth, do you know any stories?
No,
Granddad Sewell said that she smoked a corncob pipe,
well, I guess she did.
and she was a little short, chunky woman, and that she used to take the green beans and put them up on top of the roof to dry them.
Yeah,
And when the dew came in the evening, she'd put a blanket on.
Yeah.
And then next morning when the sun come up, she'd take the blanket off and dry the beans until however many days it took to dry them, since she
well,
didn't have.
we've dried them that same way, though.
We dried them that
Oh,
same
you
way.
do it? You throw them up on the roof too?
Oh, we have.
Yeah, you put them on a white sheet. You don't put them on a colored sheet. You Put 'em off
Yeah,
like
we
sheep.
dried them that way. Oh, yeah, yeah. We dried beans that way. Just break them like it's ready to cook, you know, and just put them on something and take them up on the roof and dry them.
But you don't get up on the roof anymore.
No, I couldn't get up myself.
It's usually Betty. That's the reason I've got so many scars on my knees.
But we used to put them on the roof, yeah. Yeah, sure did.
Do you think that Grandpa Sewell or any of them was in this battle right up here on top of our hill, that where they hid the horses?
No, don't think so. Now, when I was just a boy, I'd say I was 10 or 12, something like that. There's an old man come here with John Hearns, and wanted to know where wanted to show him where the Bucky Sink is at. And of course, we just boys, we was playing around. We wanted to go along with him, and we went along with him. And he took us right up here on this hill and showed us where that old man hid the horses the night before the Battle of Dutton Hill. And Bucky Price was the old man's name, and they called that the Bucky Sink. And Slaughter was killed next morning on that hill. And there's a big rock, oh, it stands up that high. Big rock, big. I don't know what, I'll tell you what we could do. We could drive up to Jack Meese's and walk across Saddleback. I could make it that far. I couldn't walk up the hill. You want to go up there?
Yeah, we can do it.
And that old man that hid the horses stayed up in the tree.
Now they were hiding them from the Confederates?
Well, yes, yeah. And that is the night before the Battle of Dutton Hill.
And how far away is Dun Hill from here?
Oh, it'd be
About
5 miles.
5 miles down 39.
Going on towards Somerset.
There's a big monument up on
Just
top of the hill.
Just before you get to Somerset, on this 39.
So that's just, what, a couple miles from Somerset?
Yeah.
So that's the closest battle of the Civil War in the Somerset area there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's closer than it is out to Nancy, see. Of course, I guess the heaviest battle was, I don't know, the monuments down there, I've not been to it for, 15 years, I don't guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been to it.
It's pretty tall, but you have to park at the road and walk up the hill. But you can go across the
But now,
road. Okay.
there's the Battle of Dutton Hill there. Now, I never did hear nobody say of any account of where Grandpa Sewell was ever in any of the battles.
Have you ever seen a picture of Grandpa in a uniform, in a military uniform? Was there one available that you'd ever seen?
I don't remember ever seeing one. I don't remember ever seeing one.
The earliest pictures you have of Grandpa Ben then is of him and Elizabeth in their wedding picture.
Yeah, that's the first.
I was wondering, could we get that on video? And is it possible to get something like that copied?
I guess it is, I don't know, but
Go to a special.
now if Jim Slaughter was here, he was made pictures for years and still helps.
That's
I believe it's stuck, David. It may not be stuck.
It looks
It looks like it is.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let me get through the camera here and see if I can take a picture. I'll just
Okay.
turn the camera and put it in zoom. Can you, okay, this'll work.
Can you get yours, Jim?
Yeah, I had to get light there.
Now this is a picture of Grandpa Ben and Grandma Elizabeth. Can turn the, got the reflection, whoa. That's a picture of Grandpa Ben and Grandma Elizabeth on their wedding day or pretty close to it.
Yeah. When they first got married, anyway, at least.
And they were probably in their, what, mid-20s?
Well, I don't know.
I'd say about that, yeah.
Yeah, they're a handsome couple.
They says maybe I look a little like her.
Well, I can't tell right
I
yet.
was trying to brag on myself.
I don't know what you look like when you was in your mid-20s.
Oh, wait a minute.
Well, that's pretty neat that you still got a picture of Grandpa Ben like that.
Well, that's the only one I've ever seen. Any of the younger ones.
Well, the only ones that I've ever seen is this one here that you got, and then the one Granddad had of the big pencil etching when he had the goatee and he was probably in his late 60s. Those are the only two that I've ever seen.
Well, now, they've always told me that that picture was made whenever they first got married. Now, I don't know. That's what they've always just handed to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like the age would have been about right. Like they were about that age.
Well, now, he looks to be older than Grandma. He looks to, just to look at him.
And I've only seen 2 or 3 pictures of Grandma Elizabeth in her, this one here, and then a small one that I had, and I think there's an older, she's an older lady that I've seen.
I don't know. They evidently was more pictures, but I don't know who had them.
Well, probably some of the other children passed them down, and they went that direction down the river.
Well, they could have been, and
Well, I remember about 10 years ago when Granddad and I was here, you showed us, at that time, Grandpa Ben's pocket watch that he had. Do you remember that?
yeah. But I don't know what become of that
Sherman
watch.
got that, didn't he, Mom?
Yeah.
And
Ah,
then
yeah.
I think Benji. I think Benji's got it.
Who
Benji. Dorsey's Benji.
has him?
I think so.
I might have. I don't know.
She probably wouldn't tell you about it, but when
Well, that's a treasured heirloom.
yeah, when
There's a key winder.
Yeah, I remember you showing it to
Yeah,
me.
there's a key winder watch.
I remember you showed me that gallon or 2-gallon glass jar you had of arrowheads too.
but we can't find it.
Well, you got some big mice in here that got sticky fingers in.
I had. Did you see the fish hook that I had carried so long,
I don't remember.
made out of flint?
Well, maybe you did show it to me since you said
I
flint.
carried it.
It was only about 1.5 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about
But
that.
he carried it in his billfold for years.
Yeah, I carried it to Ward, holding 3 or 4 different bills.
Can you tell me why Grandpa Ben's not buried at the same cemetery as Grandma Elizabeth?
Well, they lived down at that old place then. That's how come him buried down Rock Lake.
I mean, it just seems strange that the
Well,
husband
yeah.
and wife
And
aren't buried in the
I don't know why
same one.
they didn't take Grandma so down there. I don't know about that.
And we was looking at Pine Hill this morning, and 3 of the children are buried there with Grandma Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And then one's in Illinois and one's in Montana, and we was just wondering where the others are buried at. Nancy James there at Pine Hill. and her brother, and 2 brothers.
Well, let's see now. Granny
Huh?
was Uncle H a brother to Grandma Sewell?
Yeah.
Her grandfather and my grandmother were brothers and sisters. Huh?
That's the herb.
That's on the Earp side.
She's on the Earp side and you're on the Sewell side.
Yeah. But
So you both had the same grandparents.
yeah, there. Mm-hmm. And this Granny Hannah we're talking about, skinned all of us.
You don't think any of that stuff passed down through the generations?
Yeah, I think that lodged in Betty.
No, now, Mom, it lodged in you.
Well. Oh, Lord.
Mom tells fibs on me.
That, now I've always heard that, but I never seen him myself. But I guess so. Now that old Earp place down there,
They told us that she always plaited her hair in little plaits.
I remember you saying something about braiding her hair.
Yeah, she braided that hair in little plaits. And whenever she died and they found her, it was straight.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
I don't remember that.
When they set me in the pillow where she had her head, Mom,
Yeah, there's a bunch of feathers, a little bunch of feathers wadded up. About big as your hand. I mean, you can tell that, but I don't know what color.
Well, we've all got skeletons in our closets, it looks like.
some of them's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, Uncle Matt, was he the first one to leave the Somerset area to start out?
yeah, as far as I know he was.
So about everybody else stayed around here until they was a little older.
Yeah.
And then Grandpa Frank, he went to Illinois, and the rest of them stayed here in Kentucky.
Well, he was first and left.
Seeing as that's what I'm really interested in, could you, you told me the story the other day about why they left and about when. Could you go ahead and just tell that story again? Who all was involved and everything?
Yeah. There's Robert and Boss Hansford. They were just boys, and well, probably 10, 8 or 10 or 12, maybe something like that. Just small boy. And there was a store over there, and the store had a post office in it.
Mm-hmm.
And some way or another, they went in there and got, all they got was some tobacco and maybe some candy. And so they left. And this is going to indict them or something. I don't know what about it. Anyway, they had right smart to do about it. And Uncle Matt left, and he said he'd never be back, and he wasn't back. Of course, and I didn't know that till Chester told me. And me and Chester, how come it? Me and Chester was together, and we stopped down there at that Boss Hansford's store. Well, this Hansford ran around the store, and he said to me, he said, "Who's your friends you got with you?" And I told him who it was. And Buddy, he turned around and left and went out of the store and went to the barn. Never did come back. And so Chester was going back. Chester said, "You know, Sal," he strange he acted. I said, yeah. And Chester told me about it. Now that happened when they lived, Uncle Matt lived over next to Salem Cemetery. Of course, the old house places there now, you can't tell. There's a big brick house that's sitting there now. Of course, there's a little bitty old house and a little barn.
So they were still holding grudges
Yeah,
years later.
Yeah. Now, boss, he took off and he left us. He just left us just like that. Took off right through the back door he went, and went to the barn. And I thought, well, how strange that guy acted. And so me and Chester got talking about it, coming on back. I never heard it until then. Chester told me.
Just a little note on that story. When my mom just recently saw a picture of Chester when he was older, she about had a heart attack because she the first word she said was, "My gosh," she said, "that's your grandpa." And so apparently they looked a lot alike too.
Yeah.
And I compared two pictures of them, and my grandpa and him looked an awful lot alike.
Is that
So,
right? Yeah. Well,
it's interesting.
Of course, I think Lloyd, when I look into his eyes, I see Granddad too.
Yeah, I can see my grandpa.
And your mannerisms and emotional and everything is just a spitting image of Granddad.
I never did.
Well, he was talking about that Benjamin being how old he looked, no hair. Daddy has not had any hair as long as I can remember, and that's been.
Well, I think that shows the more
So-
pure Sewell blood. in
Yeah,
ya.
so that Benjamin may not have been.
Let's see here. Let's look here. Is that
No, we don't need to do that.
nice head there? And I'll come over here.
Want to know
Yeah,
what
look,
I'm going to
he's-
look like?
And it's a nice head there. I obviously have my Heiner blood in me with my
Yeah.
hair, so
With all that hair, yeah, you
it's
don't.
still there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, well.
But
He'll come through. It'll come through.
I don't remember Daddy ever having any hair.
Well, I was about 19, I guess, when it started coming out. Oh, they said, geez, I worked up in Ohio. I was, I was just 20-year-old. I worked up in Ohio, and I done everything. It started coming out. They said, try this, try that, and try that. Yeah. The fellow up there, I never did forget that guy, Tony Slate, run a barber shop. He said, if you come down here and let me massage your hair, stop it from coming out. Well, Tony didn't stop it.
Do you remember any pictures, older pictures of all your uncles and aunts together? Has there ever been a picture of that available?
I don't remember ever seeing one. I don't remember ever seeing a picture of Uncle Frank and Dad and John and that. I don't remember ever seeing a picture of any of them together.
So there probably wasn't ever a family portrait
Now,
of...
Uncle John's, let's see, what would it, Shirley,
David would be Uncle John's great
grandson.
son.
Well, now, they was there yesterday.
The big lady with the beautiful loud dress on. What color was
Yeah, I
it?
don't-
Red or turquoise?
I don't
Red or
remember.
Well,
fuchsia or...
now, that's Johnny Sewell's wife.
Well, I just wondered whether there was ever a family portrait of Ben and Elizabeth with their children.
Not that I ever seen. I've never seen one. Of any of them. Now, that and Grandpa and Grandma, that's the only one that I've ever seen.
And I was able to see the pictures of Elizabeth, and then when I was here the day before,
Yeah.
when you showed me the pictures. So we never had anything because of the fact that they left. So when they
Yeah.
would have divided anything up, he wouldn't have been here.
Well, they probably wasn't, didn't have many.
You're right.
Or like it.
That wasn't a high priority back then.
Well,
How many acres did Granddad Ben ever own at one time? The most he ever had.
that little spot down there is all I ever hear him talk of.
What was that? 40 acres?
Oh, 7 or 8.
Oh, that's all he ever owned.
Yeah, yeah, just that little spot down there. Well, you can see, unless it's been changed some since I've seen it. Because I've not seen that in a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Probably since when we were there.
Well, that's the last time.
No, we've been through there since then, but no, it's not changed.
Now,
I don't think so.
now the house where my dad and mother lived, now, they never built it, but they was there on that place. But I don't know who built it. Never did hear nobody say. Now, the old house set up on top of that flat, just above where that water hole is at, next to the fence. Now, that's where the old house is, big house is. And the other one set down here just as you go through that gate. There's a gate there. Just you went through the gate, just out there, just a little way. And that roadway went right through there and up the hill and through the woods, went across what they call the Darky Knob and crossed over that way now.
Did all your uncles go to the same grade school?
My uncles.
Right. Grandpa Ben's children?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know. I guess they all went to Grundy School. I'd say they did. Because that's where they lived at whenever they was growing up.
Where'd your dad go to school at?
Huh?
Where'd your dad go to school at?
Grundy.
Grundy?
Right. And the old Grundy School, you know, is back on the hill. Like you go straight on up that, through there and over on the hill. Comes over on the, well, you know where the old Grundy Schoolhouse used to stand.
Yeah, no. It's a dwelling house now.
Huh?
It's a dwelling house now. It's where Flonnie Simpson's house is.
Is it?
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
I didn't know.
Harold remodeled that.
Flonnie don't live down next to Howard?
No,
Oh, I didn't know.
no.
Well, anyway, now that road used to go across there, just a wagon road, I reckon. We went across that hill and across that other road and come on over to, well, we went on over to her place, over the hill. Yeah, golly. Then a lot of water went out of there.
Mm-hmm.
You tell us a story again on the government stone for Grandpa Benjamin.
Oh, it being late.
Uh-huh.
Well, now, I don't know how come it, but all I've ever heard him say is Uncle John told me. And so it was late in coming, and they had to buy one before they could sell the place, you know, and set it up to a estate down there. There's Dad and Uncle Matt and Uncle John and Uncle Frank. And I don't know if Nannie was living at that time or not. I really don't know. But anyway, that's what Uncle John said. And he said that, I asked about it, and how come? And so that's what Uncle John told me. And he said they bought that rock and put it up so they could settle the estate down there. And then later the rock come. And then old man Bill Price wouldn't let him get it. I was with him. Still, they had a fight.
Didn't Uncle Frank have them upstairs?
He had a little mustache. Yeah, that's about the most I remember about him.
So that stone was in the barn for several years before you ever got it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it stayed down there at Bill Price's. It was up at the old place, see, Bill Price bought the old Sewell tract of
I
land.
see.
And so then they moved it down to his barn. And I don't know why he wouldn't let us get that. Of course, there's a little ill feeling between Uncle John and Mr. Price. I don't know what it's about, but
So he finally changed his mind and gave you the stone.
no, after he died,
Oh.
a long time, after several years after he died. Well, maybe not several, but
So one of his sons had it then.
no. It's, what would Ted speak to him? Ted Stewart's.
Oh, I don't know. But that's who you got the rock from.
Anyway, Stewart's lived there, see, and I don't know. And I know we was talking about it and over there at prayer meeting one night. So at Pine Hill, and that boy had said, "There's a tombstone down there. They cleaned out the barn shed, and there's a tombstone down there that had Sewell on it." He said, "Who's that?" And I said, "It's Grandpa Sewell." And I said, "What'd you do with it?" And he said, "Put it in the manure loader and just hauled it out there and laid it up on the rock that was laying out there in the field or in the barn lot." And I told him, I said, "We'd come get it sometime." He said, "We'll come get it in time." And so we went down there and got it. Or he brought it up to prayer meeting. You remember when he brought it?
He brought it to prayer meeting.
He brought it up to prayer meeting at Pine Hill, and Bobby Crow and Bill Hensley took it down to the power plant. They worked down at the power plant, and they took it down there and sandblasted it, shined it up. But it laid there in the manure in that barn for years, no telling. Oh, I'd say it.
Betty,
I'd say it had been moved down there to that barn probably 25 years.
Well, at least we got it back.
Yeah.
Where is that rock now, Daddy?
Betty.
Huh?
Where is that rock now?
Well,
What rock?
it's next to Grandpa Ben's tombstone.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, they're both of them. That's how come two there together.
Yeah, I've got a picture of you and two of your boys setting that.
Well,
Yeah.
Jim Slaughter and a bunch of us, we had a whole bunch of us lay down there.
Is that the
Took
good
it down
enough?
there and put it out.
Huh? Okay.
Well, that's where it belongs.
Then their
Well,
church
you
burnt
go.
since then. See?
Yeah, that picture I got from you, it still had the church in the background.
Yeah, well, then they built the church instead of building back there. They built it way on down the road, a mile further on towards town. Well, maybe not a mile, but half a mile. It's down right there by the old Asher. I'm not seen it, but they say it's right there close to Asher Schoolhouse.
Was Grandma Elizabeth ever here at this place?
Not that I remember.
Who lived over there on the, where that Jeff Gooden's got his tobacco patch?
Where?
Over there where Jeff Gooden's got his tobacco patch. Going down over that hill by the Bobbitt place.
Oh, that's Grandpa Ball.
Oh, okay.
That's
Wrong generation.
That's Grandpa Ball. Lived there. That's where my mother was raised. She's raised right there where that tobacco patch is. And then Granddad Thought built the Bill Bobbitt house. See? And they quarried them rock up there. Grandpa Bobbitt quarried them rock. It's in that chimney.
You got a picture of Grandpa and Grandma Bout's grave marker yesterday morning?
No,
I thought you did.
because I didn't know which one it was.
Okay.
Well, it's out there.
It says Sylvester and Lucy. Yeah, we talked about
But-
that.
But is that my side?
Well, no, that's Grandma Sewell's side.
Her on her maiden side.
Yeah,
Grandma Elizabeth's side.
yeah.
No, I didn't know which one it was.
I might have got a picture of that.
It's a
There's-
pretty good sized rock.
Yeah. I think I got a picture of that. I got a lot of pictures.
Great.
I've taken pictures everywhere.
Great. Now, have you already been to Mill Springs Cemetery?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, you need to go past Dutton Hill. You need to go up here and see this hole in the ground, but I don't know if you can get up there or not.
Or,
Up to Jack Meese's.
Boys, if we're gonna see it, we better get going.
Well, they got all evening.
Well, I don't know. We don't want to take up your dinner time. I don't know what time you eat. It's 11.
We eat when we get in the ocean, because it's ready.
Well, we better quit then.
We can eat when you get ready to eat. Oh, but putting it on the table and doing a little work on it.
Now, to me, I'm never on that hill up there, but what I think about what that old man told us. I know about where the old man lived at. He lived up 39 Highway, lived up what they call the Upper Glades. They used to call Woodstock the Upper Glades, and down here in the Bobtown section, the Lower Glades. It's kind of swampy, and they called it the Glades. Well, and they'd say Upper Glades and Lower Glades. That's what they used to. Now they talk about Woodstock and Bobtown. It's Woodstock and Bobtown now. But it used to be Upper and Lower Glades. When I was just a boy. But that's the same territory. One's on one side of the creek and the other's on the other.
Did any of your uncles ever play up there? It'd be on Highway 39 where the croquet court is.
Oh, yeah.
Was that croquet court there way back
Yeah.
in the middle 1800s or?
Well, way back, yeah. Yeah, your grandpa Chester played croquet right there by that old storehouse.
And all your uncles played?
Yeah, everybody played. That used to be the general pastime, croquet playing.
Kind of hard to believe that.
Yeah.
And then there's a lodge hall up there.
Well, and May and Hattie, well, they played too. Yeah, they played croquet.
Instead of going to town and watching a movie, you played croquet on a Saturday night.
There wasn't no such a thing as a movie then.
Didn't have no movies.
There was no movie.
Silent screen.
Yeah.
But they had this lodge hall up there.
They, I didn't find the marble, but I made some dough bowls like this out of a piece of tree that's cut up there by the croquet. And where they had a fork on it like that, there'd been a marble lodged in that, and whenever I split that, you could see that there'd been something there. And it had been a big marble.
A glass marble or
No,
clay?
Big stone.
Oh.
Big old. And so we got to laughing about it one day. And somebody said, well, you catch that as one of them when they got mad up there and threw their marbles playing and just throw a handful of marbles.
Did we have anybody in our family that used to make moonshine?
You know, right?
Granny, do you know anybody that used to make white lightning?
Yeah, Gert's brother, Frankie.
Because Granddad told me years ago when we was here in the early 70s, he said he could remember when there was an old man up a certain hill used to make that corn squeezins.
Well, I lived right up on the hill up there. Doolin. Over here. Yeah.
Last year, we had an old smokehouse of a thing down here. And we started tearing it down, and it did have a cellar under it. And they caught the smokehouse fire because they was in the cellar.
Oh, squeezing?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
But we tore it down. Daddy saved a whole bunch of boards, and we've got a bunch of boards left, but some of them's got a little black on them. And
Didn't have any of the old copper kettles or anything.
Daddy and Mommy did have one, but I don't know what happened to it.
Well, I just wondered whether we had any family that had that trade down there.
Yeah, and they hid the,
Used to be a common thing.
over here at my spring, there's a deep place down in there. I don't know what you call that, where you call it a sink or whatever that is. And it's where the dirt was all piled up, you know. Well, that's where they had their parties and did their dirty work.
Yeah.
Hid their moonshine and stored it over there by the spring. And
That's a good place to cool it.
well, yeah, they kept it over there and they partied over there.
Were we ever in a situation like there were in other parts of the state of family feuds? You know, like the Hatfield McCoys. Did the Sewells ever become involved in anything like that?
Not that I ever knowed of.
So we were clean people.
Well, I think it's just mostly cowards.
Oh, we don't want to say that.
No, sir, that. No, I never did hear of nothing like that. But now there's a lot of them did. You just say, oh, no. Boy, I'll tell you, after I started preaching, there's an old man that lived down the road down there. I went down there and see him. Of course, I don't know. Of course, I wasn't young, and I got out there, and buddy, I got started hunting these old heads up. The old man Luther Kai's. Went down to Luther Kai's, and Luther was a fine feller, you know. And of course, I know he did go to church. He didn't know then. He wasn't interested in going to church. But I never know why. I never heard nobody say. So we went out there, and he wouldn't talk in front of his wife. And he said, "Let's go out here. I want to show you my pigs out here." And we went out there. He got to telling me about it. He locked his arm around a tree that's there in the hog lot. And if he went around that once, holding on to that tree, I bet you he went around, probably 12 or 15, maybe more times than that, just round and around, and talking and crying and walking. And he told me, he said, "Now, George, I've always been accused of helping kill that man up there by your grandpa's pond at the town." He said, if I had to die right here, he said, I had nothing to do with that. He said, I had seen that fella the day before, that evening. I had seen him here past along the road. He said, I'd seen him and talked with him, but he said, I had nothing to do with it. But he said, I've always been accused. He said, that's one reason I would never go to church. He never just. And some of the people, I guess, that went to church had falsely accused him. And they might have thought they were right. And I said, well, that ain't helping you one bit. Well, he finally gave in. And the old man, he was getting to be an old man then. So I said, now, you ought to join the church somewhere and be baptized. Well, he said, yeah, I know you're telling me right. So while we was talking there, the fella carried the mail come down the road and stopped, and he was telling him about it. And when he said, Mr. Kaiser, he said, why don't you come down to, he's talking about he's going to join the church somewhere. And he said, you come down there, and he'd been sick. He said, now it won't hurt you one bit. He said, we'll take you down there and sprinkle you. He said, no, I just don't do that. That suit me. And so he had to go to the doctor. He's going to Dr. Jasper down there. So old Dr. Jasper, he was an old Baptist preacher. And his boy was a doctor too. So he went down there and was going to the doctor. I said, well, won't you ask Dr. Jasper? You're going to the doctor on Saturday? I said, won't you ask Doc about it? Well, he said, I'll just do that. And so he went and talked to Dr. Jasper about it. Dr. Jasper told him. He said, now, don't think it hurts you one bit. And he said, now, if it'll satisfy you in it, he said, I'll be here at church on Sunday. And he said, if you do, I'll tell the church what your circumstance is, and they'll give me permission to do the baptism instead of the pastor. He said, well, I might just do that. And so that's what he done. And that was the happiest old fella. And he told me a lot of things that happened that I'd always heard. He's unfolded it. I used to work for him. I used to live down there fairly close to him. And he'd have company, and he'd want somebody else to do the work. He'd visit with his company. And they'd go fishing. They'd go to the river a day or two and fish. Creek and fish. Whatever they had to do, or places they wanted to go. He'd hire somebody, boys, to do his work. Of course, I was just young then. Old man Luther, he was a fine feller. But if he told you anything, it was just like he told you, or he didn't know the difference.
Do you remember when Granddad Ben got out of the service, did he like farm that little patch over here at the homestead, or did he have another occupation?
Not that I ever heard him talk of.
So he just probably just had
I
little.
don't think, I never heard of him having it. No, he did.
So he just worked up that little bit of acres he had there,
It's a
and
little place, of course. I guess he worked for maybe sharecrop somewhere. I don't know if he did or not.
and then he just got the
I never
pension
did.
from the government of so much a month then for his service in the war then.
Yeah, that's all just that little place is all ever I knowed of. And I never did, of course, I guess I never did, was never privileged to have seen any of the older fellas that's been around his age. I guess the old man that lived over there towards Grundy, what was his name? Linville. Now, over there in at Plackey Yard, there's a cedar post standing there, and that post has got holes bored in it. That thing has been there. There's an old thing on it first, back as I can remember, and it's been there standing there for, probably for 80 years, maybe longer than that. There's just one post there in the yard. Just one post standing. Of course, I remember when that fence used to be there.
What was that post for?
It was in the fence. It's there at the Henry Plackett place.
You had them holes in it. What was that for?
Well, they had the slats, bookends like that.
Oh, okay.
What's that little church?
Didn't have no nails, no steeples. They just hewed the split rails and hewed them off and poked them in them holes. Yeah.
What's that church over there across the hollow that is close to that little Short Creek?
Short Creek Church.
Short Creek.
Short Creek Church, and that's the oldest church, isn't it, in the community?
No, Flat Lick.
Flat Lick is.
Flat Lick.
That's where you went to the cemetery
Flat Lick.
yesterday, didn't you?
Flat
You
Lick
did.
is-
I went there yesterday.
You did, but you didn't get to go?
Mhm.
Okay.
Flat
Well, I was
Lick.
thinking there's Sewell's buried there at Short Creek Church. Because I remember stopping there with you.
Yeah, there's some up on that hill there. Buried up on, the cemetery's up on the hill. Yeah. Where, Jim Simpson.
Yeah,
Was looking at him
yeah.
when I had his funeral.
But who are they?
There's some of the clan, but I couldn't tell you right now what their names are.
They would be a generation older than your dad's,
No, it'd be about in that bunch.
so they might be cousins or something from Grandpa Ben's other
Now,
brother.
some of them
Oh.
live where we was at yesterday, you know, at that old cemetery.
Mhm.
Now, down next to the creek, there's an old cemetery down there. The last time I was there, there'd been a storm that blew a tree off over in there, and it all growed up, couldn't get through there. And I don't know if there's any of them markers that's got any names on them at all or not. I think most of them just wrong. But now part of the souls are buried right there.
Betty,
What?
But now they used to be quite a clan of them
pictures.
lived right in that section there where we was at yesterday. It used to be a bunch of them. They built that old, we never seen that rock fence though, did we?
No, it was on down the road. We didn't get to
Now,
it.
they started building that rock fence.
Where is Grandma's supposed to
And they just added to that rock fence, and that rock fence is still
Again,
there.
the bottom of that.
You said that was Negro slaves that had.
Well, I think they had some slaves maybe.
Television.
Right here?
Yeah. In a box.
You didn't think I could do that, did
I
you,
think
Dave?
they, I think they had some
Two
slaves
miles
down
away.
there.
Did you ever find or think you know where the gravesite is of Grandpa Ben's father is? He's buried here in Kentucky, isn't he?
I don't know. I never did hear.
Do you know of any,
I wish I did know. I never did hear of it.
you know of any, schools right down on Buck Creek?
Oh, what?
Buck Creek?
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's it.
That's Buck Creek.
I know that's, the papers that I found from Doss and Sewell, which would be, Benjamin's grandfather, that's where they settled.
Yeah, well,
Originally,
that's,
right on
that's what
Buck
we're talking
Creek.
about. That's where we're talking about.
So-
Over that old cemetery down there. Well, now, there used to be
Have
quite
you
a
found
few
that
of them
box,
lived in
Betty?
there. And that's, see,
No.
our boy lives on this side of the
Square
creek, and it's right straight on
And
the
it's
other
got
side.
old picture in it.
He got a big farm out there. It's on the opposite side of the creek where we was at yesterday.
Mhm.
His farm's on this side of the creek. But them, of course, it's just open fields down in there now. Of course, they ain't been farmed for,
Well, the ones who were in the Revolutionary War, more than likely, they were just buried in an unmarked grave then.
well, might have been. A lot of them didn't have a tombstone, they just had a.
Just buried them.
Stuff up. Of course, now, them Sewells, a whole bunch of them, there used to be a whole raft of them lived back in there, in that Dallas section. A whole bunch of them.
Grandpa tells the story about used to run down to Nancy and stuff. That you had business or you did things down there. Does he remembers riding a horse down there
to Nancy?
Mm-hmm.
What didn't hear you last
No, but everybody drove it.
Oh, it can't all
6 or 8
find
miles, they didn't think anything about it.
This one right here.
Where Grandpa Ben's buried, you told me that back behind on the far side where the trees are growing, that's where they buried all the black slaves, that they were not allowed in the
Yeah,
white cemetery.
yeah, they're up on the hill. And some, a lot of them, some of them was over, even up across in the edge of the woods now, up out of that cemetery.
But that was the process. I mean, they never put blacks and whites in the same cemetery.
Not together, they didn't, no. I guess they, now, there's up in the edge of the woods
Who is
from that
this?
cemetery, back up to the left. Now, they say there's several graves in there, I don't know.
But they were all unmarked graves.
Yeah,
Might be a thing.
of course, that's
I can't
the way
read,
they
Mom.
done it too.
Mm-hmm.
Your daddy didn't know who he is.
What do you find? Great Aunt Nannie.
Okay, this is a picture of Nannie Sewell, who was Benjamin Sewell's daughter.
Of what?
She was the one that never married. This was Granddad Sewell's aunt, Nancy Jane. Okay. Next picture. Now this is Grandpa Benjamin's grandmother, Earp's sister and husband.
James and Kathleen Hargis.
And this is a real old one. Okay, next. This is Jim Sewell's great-grandmother who lived in Montana. This is,
It's Lydia Barclay Sewell.
right. Okay.
Zoom in on this one.
And this is another. Which one is this?
This is Nannie.
This one's gonna be a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it now. Okay, got it.
And then you want to get these.
Right.
So John William Earp. Born June 2nd, 1876. Died November 12th, 1906. Buried at Rock Lake Cemetery.
Alright.
John Earp.
This is Ona M. Sears.
This is his wife.
Born December 13th, 1888. Died May 14th, 1949.
Okay. Is that the last one?
That's it. Just need my grandpa in there. That's the horse thief.
Who's that?
That's my grandpa,
Give his name.
Robert Benjamin Sewell.
Let me zoom up here. Okay, got her.
It's Milton Green Sewell.
This is great granddad Frank's brother. Okay. This is a picture of my great aunt
That's
May
my dad.
Andrews.
That's my dad
And
when he was young.
This is also, we think, Granddad Sewell's mother to the right. This is a picture of Lloyd Sewell's father, which is Granddad's uncle.
Yeah.
Might be snakes in here.
That's all right. So this is the ground where Granddad Sewell and everybody else went to school for a few years in grade school. We're just off Highway 1317. Nothing left here except a few trees, might be a few stones left from the foundation. Right up there you see a part of the remaining foundation of the old school. Old watering hole over here where Jim's going. So you say this was just a one-room schoolhouse, right?
Mine too. I hate to have to admit it, but it's true just the same. I hate penalizing a whole lot, just funny, you know.
Yeah.
Boys. But all in all, she's one of the best school teachers I ever went to. If we'd give her half a chance, she could learn us all something, knowing what we did.
Yeah.
But she didn't have a good chance on account of trying to take care of him. But she made him mine around just like he did the rest. And boy, if you think she couldn't put the gad to you, she was wrong. She could manhandle. Then now the steps went into the old school. And the other, instead of going up steps, came flat down and this way. And sit this way. Yeah. You broke both windows right along here somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did this have a fireplace in it?
No, it had a stove.
Just a little coal stove.
Yeah, wood stove. Old stove.
This is
I
the
think
steps
we
to
had
the school.
I think we had a coal stove on the last, I don't know. Might have been coal stove all the time. I know it was on the last.
This is the highway right here, 1317. School was called Eden School, and there was a church on down the road called Eden School. Eden Baptist Church just on down the road. Lloyd says where those poles are is where there was a log schoolhouse, and his mother went to school there, and then when it became non-existent, then they had the school across the road here. I'm here at Lloyd and Granny's homestead here just northeast of Somerset a few miles. This is the house.
5 miles out.
5 miles out. This house right here I'm looking at, that's the house Lloyd and Granny started. Is you homesteaded in that house?
I reckon
Started a family in that house. They moved that on a couple telephone poles. It was a mile or so away from here. This is the side view of that old house, and that's just full of old bowls that Lloyd has made by hand, bread bowls. He's carved out of different types of wood. Now one of his daughters, Betty Bingham, lives on across the hill there about a mile. We're looking almost east, straight east.
Jacob Souders.
Lloyd says that log cabin down there belonged to old Uncle Jacob Souders. We're going to walk on down there and get a better look at it.
That's the house that old Dr. Souders lived in, and he was married to my great-grandmother Vaught for a little while. 4 or 5 years after Miss Souders died, he married Grandpa Vaught's mother.
Okay, we'll walk down there.
She'll know who Grandpa Vaught was. There's one that's got a rock comes from out of the schoolhouse, and one comes from out of the...
How old is this log cabin?
Well, I don't know, but it's got a date on the rock down there, 1806.
1806?
But I don't know whether that's... if you talk to May about it, she'll know who you're talking about when you talk about Uncle Jake Souders and West Vault.
Okay.
West Vault was my grandpa, and his mother was married to old Dr. Souders for a little while. Dr. Souders lived in that house.
Okay. We'll walk around the other side and see what it looks like. You've got a bunch of old bread bowls in there, don't you?
Yeah, some, not too many in there.
Stone chimney. I was thinking there was a date carved in one of them stones.
See up down there?
Oh, okay.
The long,
Yeah.
the big long one.
Let me see what I can get that.
You know where we passed the stone house down on the road?
Yeah.
At Flat Lake.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That comes from down there. That's the old Captain Hansford house. That come from a step off of the Captain Hansford house, right straight down across the road from that stone house in Chapel.
That's what it says.
Okay, and they went up yonder. Says the old Vault house, 1811 or.
Is it right above that long one?
Yeah, Roger's got that writing on it. That's the old Vault house. It stood down where, down past the Grandma Vault place, West Vault place. And let's see, there's one there got Eden Schoolhouse on it.
Are these your bean pole sticks?
Yeah, some Betty had. Now, you see the sand rocks in here, David?
Yeah.
4 sand rocks and 2 lead colored ones.
Right.
All right, now them come from out of the old original Flat Lake Church when it stood down in Richards Field towards the creek before it moved up where it is now.
These rocks right here in the
That's
center.
the old Flat Lake Church. It's not always been where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be down in the field where there's a small cemetery, just a few graves.
Okay.
They come from out of the old Flat Lake Church. And whether that's the church that the old preacher Sewell preached in or not, I
Right.
don't know. Whether it's that one or whether it's up where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that old fellow's name was James Daniel. James Daniel Sewell. And they was going to burn that old building. I said, well, I'll take it down and rebuild it.
How long have you had it here?
Oh, since in the 80s, I don't know, 80 something, 83 or 4, I guess.
So it's been here about 12 years.
Yeah, it's been here a little more than that. It's been here about 16 or 17 years. Must have been the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's been here 16 or 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a date on here. I'll look and see when it was made. When they made it. Here's that date carved on this rock. 1806. December the 6th, 1806. Now what that means, I don't know. And whose it is, I don't know. Well, I can see. It's so dark I can't see what that is here.
Yeah, I'll go in here for a minute.
Now that rock come from down there too. Now it's got a penny in it. It was a new penny when I was put in there, so the date that's on that penny is the corresponding year of that being built. It may be a year the oldest, but it's within a year of being exactly, because there's a new penny then. I think it's the same year though. There's a bowl I put in a lot of time on to see it bust out, crack all the pieces. I wanted to see if I could make it. I put that thing, I couldn't turn it on the turn lathe, so I just kept working it around and around.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it. Well, that turn lathe ain't been used for 7 or 8 years. I've got another one up there in the garage. A bigger one than this. This is Sears and Roebuck.
There was a slave house right across the road from here.
Down looking this other way. Looking across in Daysfield over there. Across from the spring.
Uh-huh. And there was one right over here where those tall weeds were.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then there's one over in Daysfield.
Mm-hmm.
A slave house, but the old original house was right out there by the pear tree.
Is the pear tree still there?
No, the pear tree, we took it out after we got here. It was dead.
This old barn of Lloyd's, as you can see here, was used in a movie that they made a Western out of. You can see they wrote livery. I'm not sure what movie it was. He said there was guys from Hollywood, I believe it was, that came here. This is County Road looking toward the west. This is the front of Granny and Preacher's house, garage. This is Crown Hill Cemetery at Ridge Farm, Illinois, and right here is my great-grandfather Frank, Andrew Frank, and Emma Dupe Sewell. This was great-great-granddad Benjamin and great-great-grandmother Elizabeth's son, who was a brother to Matt, who lived in Montana, Silas, Nancy Jane, and several other brothers. He just lived in Vermilion Grove, just a few miles north of here, his last remaining years. And just to the left is his oldest son, which was my great uncle Fred, which I never knew, and Aunt Minnie, great Aunt Minnie. This is Granddad's older brother. And right up here to the front is my granddad's youngest sister, Hallie Graham. With one sole remaining great aunt. One sister left of my granddad's that lives up in Pontiac, Michigan, Auburn Heights. It's late in the evening. This is a small farming community of about 900 people. Here the dryer's in the elevator right in front of us. This is my grandfather and grandmother Sewell's grave tombstone. Chester was the son of Andrew Frank Sewell and the grandson of Benjamin Sewell, who was buried in Somerset, Kentucky. This is at Friends Chapel Cemetery, just north and east of Scotland, Illinois, about 2.5 miles east of the Indiana state line. And my dad's brother, Carl, is buried right next to him. He passed away from a heart attack. Last year, 2 months before my grandfather did. This is what the surrounding countryside looks like, looking straight east. Dad and Mom live straight due in the center of that picture, about 3 miles. I live about 2 miles due the center of the picture right there. That's northwest. And this is straight west. This is the church. It's a Quaker church. And due south. This is the front of the cemetery and the church grounds. It's an old church. I'm up here at Michigan with my great Aunt May, who was and is, outside of Lloyd Sewell, the sole remaining grandchildren of Benjamin and Elizabeth Sewell.
Who was 96.
Yes, Aunt May is 96 and a couple, 2 or 3 months old. She is the oldest of the remaining grandchildren of Benjamin and Elizabeth Sewell. And she just told me a little story about Benjamin Sewell, and as this is dealing with the Sewells, I'll let her re-emphasize what that story is. So, will you go ahead and tell that story about Grandpa Benjamin?
Grandfather was coming home from Grundy. He'd been to the grocery store, and he went a horseback, and he was my daddy, Frank Sewell, seen him a coming home, leading the horse, and Dad knew that Grandpa had been not well, and he knew he was sick or he wouldn't be walking. He went to meet him, and he had a heart attack, and Dad only got him well into the house. He died almost suddenly, and I've heard my dad tell this more times than one.
So your dad was the one that found him.
My dad was the middle boy of 5 sons born to Grandpa Sewell.
Do you remember any stories that your dad might have said concerning Civil War battles that Grandpa Benjamin was in?
No, really, I don't have any recollections of him telling me any tricks about his dad.
Okay, and
all I know is that Grandfather Benjamin was in the War of 1860.
okay.
Dad, I'd heard him talk about it more times than one.
And do you remember any stories about your grandmother, Elizabeth Sewell, since she did live in your house up until the time she died?
Grandmother Elizabeth and Aunt Nancy Jane lived alone as long after Grandfather Benjamin died. They lived alone until my Aunt Nancy Jane died in 1912. After that, my grandmother, Elizabeth Earp Sewell, come and lived with Uncle Matt and Aunt Liddy. They're her oldest son and daughter-in-law, for 2 years. And after 2 years, Uncle Matt brought her to my dad's home and left her because they was having to make different arrangements and they couldn't keep her any longer. So she lived the next 2 years with my dad and mother and we 4 kids. And grandmother Elizabeth Sewell died at my dad's house January the 11th, 1916. And that was about the end of my grandfather, other than his sons. His daughter was already gone, and he had 4 sons.
Do you remember any stories that your grandmother Elizabeth told you when she lived in your house, or was she a little short woman?
She wasn't as tall as my dad. I'd say she might have been 5 feet and maybe 6.
Was she kind of heavy set?
What?
Was she heavy set, kind of chunky?
Well, she's just plump.
Pleasantly plump.
She wasn't really what you'd consider a heavy person.
Mm-hmm.
She was just pleasingly plump.
Now, Granddad said that she smoked a corncob pipe. Did you ever remember her smoking a corncob pipe?
Oh, yes, I do. I loaded grandmother's pipe many a time for her and struck a match to the top of it so she could smoke.
Well, Granddad said that he remembered.
And I remember this. My youngest brother, Chester Sewell, once upon a time, he sat and whittled on a piece of corn cob. And he had got a hold of one of grandmother's pipe stems. And he made himself a cob pipe. And he got some of grandmother's tobacco and he tried smoking. Well, he only tried it once because he was the sickest little boy that ever was when he smoked that pipe.
Yeah.
No, that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And but grandmother, I always remember her smoking a clay pipe. And her grandmother, I remember grandmother's Elizabeth's sister, Aunt Nancy Evans, smoked a clay pipe. But I don't think Aunt Mandy Fulcher, I don't think she smoked. I don't have no recollection of her smoking. But my grandmother and her sister Aunt Nancy Evans both smoked a clay pipe.
Now I want you to hold this Bible here and tell the people in the tape whose Bible this was.
This Bible belonged to Grandpa Benjamin Sewell. That and my dad and mother had this Bible in their house ever since I can remember. Because Grandfather Duke died before I was born, or Grandfather Sewell died before I was born.
And on the inside cover, there's writings of, it says this Bible belongs to Benjamin Sewell.
Yeah, this Bible was Benjamin Sewell.
Let me read right here, if I can, what it says. This was done in quill pen. I'll take my glasses off. It says this Holy Bible is the property of this book. Let's see, it says the Holy Bible is the name. Boy, I'm going to have to read this again. My Holy Bible. Well, I had this done the first time. Now I can't remember what it was. It says this book belonged to Benjamin Sewell.
Yeah.
and it's got the names of his sons
His son,
and his daughter in here.
yeah.
And there was some other writings. It's awful hard to read, but Jim, you in California, you're good at reading this old stuff. I know you would love to see this, but it's the complete Bible here, and it's well over 100 and
Oh, yes, I'd say 150 years
yeah,
at the least.
130 anyway or more. Can you tell me any stories about Grandpa Benjamin and Elizabeth's sons while they were in Kentucky? Your uncles?
Uncle, you mean Grandpa?
No,
You said Uncle Benjamin.
well, I meant Grandpa Benjamin. His sons, do you remember any stories about your uncles or your Aunt Nancy Jane?
No, I'm afraid I don't.
Well, why don't you tell...
I know where we lived in Kentucky one time. Oh, well, it wasn't no distance, but we had to, when we went to Uncle Matt's, that's my dad's oldest brother,
Mm-hmm.
which would be Robert Benjamin Sewell's daddy. When we would go to my Uncle Matt's, we had to cross a stream of water. And there was a foot log, but it was all, then it seemed to me it was way up high. And we had to walk that foot log. Well, me being a little kid, I couldn't walk that foot log. I sat down on my bottom and scooted across that foot log. It was well worth it to go to be at my Uncle Matt and Aunt Liddy's house. That was Uncle Matt and Aunt Liddy was Benjamin Sewell's oldest son by his second marriage.
Let's see if your story is the same as Lloyd's concerning the one that had to go to Montana. Can you tell that story about the young one that had to leave because of what he did when he was young?
And I remember very well when Uncle William Madison Sewell, left Kentucky with his only son, Robert Benjamin, and they went to Montana. Uncle Matt never returned once to Kentucky after he once left there.
Did you ever go there to Montana and ever visit them?
I never was in Montana.
You never was?
No, I never. That's one place I've never been. Out of the 7 states in the United States that I haven't been in, Montana was one that I never got to put my foot on.
Well, I think Granddad said him and Grandmother went to see his Uncle Matt in Montana.
Chester and Fred, with 3 of our cousins, Frank and Bee and Gifford Sewell, when we were in Colorado, made a trip to, well, no, they didn't go to Montana. They went to, Cheyenne, Wyoming. And you know where they went? Would you make a guess?
I would have guessed the rodeo.
It was a saloon.
Oh, a saloon.
No.
They went that far to go?
They didn't drink. But I've got a little dram glass, that they brought home from Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Why did they go?
They were young. My brothers was 18, 19, and about 21 years old on there. They were young kids.
Did they go on horseback
No.
or train?
They went, I don't know how they went to Cheyenne from Fort Collins, but they went. Fort Collins is only about 20 miles from Cheyenne.
Oh, I was thinking it was a little bit farther than that.
So,
Well, I was thinking Granddad said him and Grandmother went up to see Uncle Matt in Montana.
that, those cousins, those three cousins, Frank and B and Gifford, was Howard's uncles. Yeah.
So most of your other uncles,
Huh?
lived to be old age in the Kentucky
Well,
area, and you remember them until you left.
Uncle Matt, Uncle Matt, I think Matt might have been in his 80s. And my dad was 84. Now, Uncle John and Uncle Lloyd, I don't know if they reached 80 or not.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, did you ever hear Lloyd say anything about his dad's age?
I don't remember at the moment.
Well, I don't have any dates on the death of my dad's brothers. Now, I do know that Uncle Milt, the second son of my grandfather Benjamin, died at a young age. He died when his three sons were very young kids.
And you said that Nancy Jane died.
And then their mother married again and married a Sears.
You said Nancy Jane died of TB.
Who?
Nancy Jane, did she die of
Nancy Jane.
tuberculosis?
My Aunt Nancy Jane died with TB. I was just a kid about 10 years old, and grandmother needed somebody to stay in the house with Aunt Nannie while she went out and did her work on the little farm where they lived. And so my cousin Lily Sewell had been and stayed 3 weeks with grandmother. And I thought, oh well, I would go and stay and get some money for myself to buy something, because I sure needed. And I went to stay, and when the week was up, my mother sent my two brothers to grandmother's house and sent me some clean clothes. And I said, don't bring me that, I'm going home. And I didn't need no clean clothes. And I went home. I only stayed with grandmother a week. And you know what? She give me a whole quarter for staying there a whole week and staying in the house with Aunt Nannie.
Yeah, that was before inflation.
No, my mother took the quarter and bought 5 yards of calico and made me a beautiful new dress.
Can you remember going to your Aunt Nancy Jane's funeral and the process of having her buried?
Who?
Your Aunt Nancy Jane, do you remember going to her funeral?
Why, sure. I remember going to her funeral. She died in 1912, and I was 10 years old. That's what I say.
They didn't have funeral homes back then, so the family took care of the body.
The family took care of the body.
Now, you was telling me last night that your grandmother or your mother made a dress for Nancy Jane in her coffin?
My mother and Aunt Liddy, Uncle Matt's wife, made Aunt Nannie's dress. Dad went to Somerset and bought the material. It was white silk, because that's what she wanted. I don't know how my dad had money enough to get it, but he did. And Mother and Aunt Liddy made her dress. And when Grandmother Sewell died at my dad's house, my mother and a neighbor, May Herrion, made Grandmother's dress, which was black silk. And they were both buried at Pine Hill. I remember very well going to both of their funerals.
And they were both taken in a horse and buggy.
Now, when Grandmother died, you see, I was about 13 years old. she died in January. Well, that January 16, and I wouldn't have been. I was only 13 years old because I hadn't had a birthday in that year.
So the families back then, they dug the holes for their own family members, or they had neighbors that helped in the funeral?
I don't think the cemeteries didn't have no caretakers in those years, but just the neighbors, good friends, or such like, go in and would dig the graves and such like. And they was buried in wooden boxes, or I remember them having boards about this wide, all cut the same length, and they lay them across the top after the casket was put down in the grave. They lay them wooden boards across before they put the dirt in. That's the way they used to bury people. And that's why graves always sunk in so far. That wood eventually deteriorated, and the graves the caskets were of poor material, just some wooden covered caskets.
Do you remember your other uncles? Did you ever go to any of their funerals? Any of your other uncles? Did you go to any of their funerals, or were you?
Any of my uncles?
Right.
Uncle Matt? No, they wasn't one of Dad's brothers that I was ever able to attend none of their funerals.
So just your grandmother Elizabeth?
Because they were all living. Uncle Matt lived in Montana when we left Kentucky, and Uncle Logan, Uncle John, and of course Uncle Milt died before I was ever born. So I was not permitted. I wasn't in the state when Dad had left Kentucky before any of his family, other than his mother and Aunt Nannie, had died.
And you said that you have only been back to Somerset once since you were 17 or 18, and that was...
And so that's a lot of memory. I wouldn't take anything in the world for my memory, and I thank the good Lord every day that I still am able to take care of myself and take care of my business and my little home. I've been seeing the world turned upside down.